In the ancient city of Ur, where thousands bowed to stone idols and worshipped the moon, lived a man named Abram. His father Terah made idols, silent gods of stone and wood. But in Abram's heart there always lived a strange emptiness. These gods did not answer, did not hear, did not see. And then one day, it happened on the most ordinary day. Abram was 75 years old, an age when a person's life is already practically complete, when all that remains is to live out one's days surrounded by family. But on this day, everything changed. A voice pierced the silence of his home, not with thunder, not with earthquake, but with such clarity that Abram understood. This was not a human speaking. This was the voice of the very creator of heaven and earth.
Go from your country, your people, and your father's household to the land I will show you. I will make you into a great nation, and I will bless you. I will make your name great, and you will be a blessing. I will bless those who bless you, and whoever curses you, I will curse, and all peoples on earth will be blessed through you.
Abram stood, struck. God was speaking to him, the living God. Not an idol, not a statue, but the one who created the stars, who gave breath to all living things. Leave everything? At his age? Go into the unknown? But a flame flared up in Abram's chest. For the first time in his life, he heard a call that filled his entire existence with meaning. He believed, and he went. Sarai, his wife, looked at him in amazement when he told her they were leaving. She was beautiful, but barren, their great shared pain. But in her husband's eyes, she saw something she had never seen: absolute certainty. She asked where they were going, and Abram told her simply that God would lead them. His faith was contagious, and she followed. The caravan moved from Ur. Abram, Sarai, his nephew Lot, servants, herds, everything that made up their life now traveled dusty roads toward the unknown. They passed through Haran, where old Terah died. Then, further, through rivers and deserts, until they reached the land of Canaan. And when Abram stood under the oak of Moreh at Shechem, the Lord appeared to him again.
To your offspring I will give this land.
Offspring? Abram had no children. Sarai was barren. But Abram built an altar to the Lord. He believed, though he did not understand how this would be fulfilled. The journey continued. Famine came to the land, and Abram went down to Egypt. There, out of fear for his life, he lied, calling Sarai his sister. Pharaoh took her into his house, but God afflicted Pharaoh's household with plagues. The truth was revealed, and they were expelled, but alive and with riches. It was a bitter lesson. Even God's chosen one can stumble. Even a friend of God can doubt. But God is faithful, even when we are faithless. Returning to Canaan, Abram faced a new problem. His herds and lots had multiplied so much that the shepherds began to quarrel. There was not enough land for everyone. Abram, though he was the elder and had the right of first choice, approached his nephew with a generous offer. He proposed peace between them, suggesting that the whole land was before them and they should separate. Abram gave Lot the choice of direction. If Lot went left, Abram would go right. If Lot went right, Abram would go left. The elder gave the younger first choice, demonstrating remarkable humility and trust in God's provision. Lot chose the flourishing Jordan Valley, where stood the cities of Sodom and Gomorrah, cities of sin and wickedness. But Abram remained in the land of Canaan. And after the separation, the Lord said to Abram,
Lift up your eyes from where you are, and look north and south, east and west. All the land that you see I will give to you and your offspring forever. I will make your offspring like the dust of the earth.
Then came war. 4 kings rose up against 5, and in the battle Lot was taken captive. Hearing of this, Abram armed 318 trained men born in his household and pursued the enemies. At night he divided his men, attacked the kings, and freed Lot, returning all the possessions and people. Returning with victory, he met Melchizedek, king of Salem, priest of God Most High. Melchizedek blessed him, and Abram gave him a tenth of everything. It was a strange meeting. The meeting of two servants of the one God in a pagan world. A premonition of future priesthood. After these events, the word of the Lord came to Abram in a vision.
Do not be afraid, Abram. I am your shield, your very great reward.
But for the first time, Abram spoke to God, not only listening, but also questioning. His heart poured out its pain. He remained childless, and all God's promises seemed impossible. He reminded the Lord that no child had been given to him, and a servant in his household would become his heir. The ache of barrenness, the weight of waiting, the promise that seemed forever unfulfilled. All of this Abram laid before God. The Lord took him outside and said,
Look up at the sky and count the stars, if indeed you can count them. So shall your offspring be.
And here something amazing happened. It is written simply, Abram believed the Lord, and he credited it to him as righteousness. Faith, not works, not merits, not sacrifices. Simply faith. Abram took God at his word, and this made him righteous in the eyes of God. That night God made a covenant with Abram. When the sun had set and darkness had fallen, a smoking firepot with a blazing torch passed between the divided animals. A sign of God's presence, the seal of an unbreakable promise. But years passed, and Sarai still did not bear children. She was already past 70. Hope melted with each passing day. Then Sarai made a proposal to her husband. According to the custom of those days, she offered him her servant Hagar, an Egyptian. Perhaps through her they could build a family, she suggested. Abram listened. This was according to the custom of those days, but not according to God's plan. Man tried to help God fulfill his own promise. Hagar conceived, and immediately irritation and jealousy began in the house. Hagar began to despise her mistress. Sarai dealt harshly with her. Hagar fled to the desert. There, by a spring of water on the road to Shur, the angel of the Lord found her.
Go back to your mistress and submit to her. I will increase your descendants so much. You are now pregnant, and you will give birth to a son. You shall name him Ishmael, for the Lord has heard of your misery.
Hagar returned. Ishmael was born. Abram was 86 years old. He loved this boy. For 13 years, Ishmael was his only son, the joy of his old age. But this was not the son of promise. Another 13 years passed. Abram was 99. The Lord appeared to him and said,
I am God Almighty. Walk before me faithfully and be blameless. No longer will you be called Abram. Your name will be Abraham, for I have made you a father of many nations.
A new name, a new identity. Not just exalted father, but father of many.
I will establish my covenant as an everlasting covenant between me and you and your descendants after you. And I will give to you and to your descendants after you the land as an everlasting possession, and I will be their God.
The sign of the covenant was circumcision, a sign on the body, a sign of separation for God. And then the Lord said concerning Sarai,
I will bless her and will surely give you a son by her. She will be the mother of nations. Kings of peoples will come from her.
Abraham fell face down and laughed. Laughter of amazement, laughter of disbelief. Would a son be born to a man 100 years old? Would Sarah bear a child at the age of 90? In his heart, Abraham expressed his desire that Ishmael might live under God's blessing. Couldn't his firstborn be enough? But God replied,
Sarah, your wife will bear you a son, and you will call him Isaac. I will establish my covenant with him as an everlasting covenant for his descendants after him.
Isaac. Laughter. A name that would forever remind of this incredible promise. Hot midday. Abraham was sitting at the entrance to his tent in the oaks of Mamre, and he looked up and saw 3 men standing before him. He ran to meet them. A 100-year-old man ran, bowed to the ground, and urgently invited them to stay. He begged them not to pass by his tent if he had found favor in their eyes. He would bring water to wash their feet and food to refresh them before they continued their journey. He washed their feet, and Sarah prepared cakes, and a calf was slaughtered. Abraham stood under the tree while they ate, and one of them asked where Sarah his wife was. How did he know her name?
I will surely return to you about this time next year, and Sarah your wife will have a son.
Sarah was listening at the entrance to the tent and laughed to herself. The thought seemed absurd. After she had grown old, would she now have this pleasure? And her husband was old too. And the Lord, for it was he, said to Abraham,
Why did Sarah laugh? Is anything too hard for the Lord?
Fear gripped Sarah, and she denied it, claiming she had not laughed. But he knew the truth, and said she had indeed laughed. The men got up and walked toward Sodom. Abraham accompanied them, and the Lord said,
Shall I hide from Abraham what I am about to do?
And he revealed to him, The sin of Sodom and Gomorrah is great, and the outcry against them is grievous. The cities would be destroyed. 2 angels left, but Abraham remained standing before the Lord. And then something striking happened. Abraham came near and began to intercede. Would God sweep away the righteous with the wicked? What if there were 50 righteous people in the city? Would he really destroy the place and not spare it for the sake of 50 righteous? Could the judge of all the earth not do what is right? And this amazing intercession began, not from greed, but from mercy. Abraham, the friend of God, pleaded for sinners. What about 50? The Lord agreed to spare the city for 50. What about 45? God agreed. 40? 30? 20? Abraham kept pressing, asking the Lord not to be angry as he spoke once more. What if only 10 could be found there? And the Lord said,
For the sake of 10, I will not destroy it.
But 10 righteous were not found in Sodom. Only Lot and his family were saved. The cities were destroyed by fire and brimstone from heaven. And Abraham rose early in the morning and went to the place where he had stood before the Lord and saw smoke rising from the earth, like smoke from a furnace. Intercession did not save the cities, but it saved Lot. The prayer of the righteous is not in vain. And the Lord visited Sarah as he had said. She conceived and bore Abraham a son in his old age. Abraham was 100 years old when Isaac was born to him. Sarah rejoiced that God had brought her laughter and declared that everyone who heard about this would laugh with her. But this was already a different laughter, not the laughter of disbelief, but the laughter of joy, the laughter of a fulfilled miracle. The impossible became possible. The child grew. And on the day Isaac was weaned, Abraham held a great feast. But Sarah saw Ishmael mocking, and her heart hardened. She demanded that Abraham send away the slave woman and her son, for the slave woman's son would never share in the inheritance with her son Isaac. This was hard for Abraham, very hard. Ishmael was his son, his firstborn. But God said,
Do not be distressed about the boy and your slave woman. But I will make the son of the slave into a nation also, because he is your offspring.
Early in the morning, Abraham took some food and a skin of water and gave them to Hagar and sent her off with the boy. She went and wandered in the desert. And when the water in the skin was gone, she put the boy under one of the bushes and went off so that she would not see the boy's death. But God heard the boy's voice. The angel of God called from heaven and opened her eyes, and she saw a well of water. Ishmael was saved. He grew up in the desert, became an archer, and God was with him. Years passed. Isaac grew, precious, only, beloved, the son of promise, all hope, all future. And it came to pass that God tested Abraham, not tempting to evil, but testing the depth of faith, Testing who was dearer, God or God's gift. God called his name. Abraham responded that he was ready to listen.
Take your son, your only son, whom you love, Isaac, and go to the region of Moriah. Sacrifice him there as a burnt offering on a mountain I will show you.
Silence. Unbearable silence. Sacrifice his own son? Kill Isaac, the one he had waited for 25 years? The one through whom the promise was to be fulfilled? Abraham asked not a single question, did not ask for explanations. Early the next morning, he got up, saddled his donkey, took 2 of his servants with him and his son Isaac, chopped wood for the burnt offering, and set out for the place God had told him about. 3 days' journey. 3 days to change his mind. 3 days to doubt. But he walked. On the 3rd day, Abraham looked up and saw the place in the distance. He took the wood for the burnt offering and placed it on his son Isaac. He himself carried the fire and the knife, and the 2 of them went on together. Isaac called to his father. Abraham answered. The boy observed aloud that they had the fire and wood, but wondered where the lamb for the burnt offering was. The son's voice, trusting, innocent, and Abraham spoke words of faith, telling his son that God himself would provide the lamb for the burnt offering. They reached the place. Abraham built an altar, arranged the wood, bound Isaac and laid him on the altar on top of the wood. He took the knife. God called his name urgently twice. Abraham answered that he was listening.
Do not lay a hand on the boy. Do not do anything to him. Now I know that you fear God because you have not withheld from me your son, your only son.
Abraham looked up and saw. There, behind, a ram caught in a thicket by its horns. He took the ram and sacrificed it as a burnt offering instead of his son. And Abraham called the name of that place Jehovah-Jireh, which means, the Lord will provide. And the angel of the Lord called from heaven a second time.
I swear by myself, declares the Lord, that because you have done this and have not withheld your son, your only son, I will surely bless you and make your descendants as numerous as the stars in the sky and as the sand on the seashore. And through your offspring, all nations on earth will be blessed because you have obeyed me.
This was the culminating moment of friendship. The test was passed. Faith reached its height. Abraham proved that he loved the giver more than the gift. Sarah lived 127 years and died in Hebron. Abraham mourned for her and wept for her. The beauty, the companion of all his life, the mother of laughter, the princess of promise. He bought from Ephron the Hittite the cave of Machpelah, the first piece of land he acquired in the promised land. There he buried Sarah. Abraham grew old. He was already past 130. Isaac was an adult, but not married. And Abraham called his oldest servant and made him take an oath. He charged the servant not to get a wife for his son from the daughters of the Canaanites, but to go to Abraham's own country and relatives and get a wife for Isaac there. The servant went to Mesopotamia. By the well he met Rebekah, Abraham's grandniece. She was beautiful, and she was chosen by God. She came and became Isaac's wife, and Isaac loved her. Abraham lived many more years. He took a wife named Keturah and had more sons. But everything he owned he gave to Isaac. And Abraham breathed his last and died at a good old age, an old man and full of years, and was gathered to his people. He was 175 years old. His sons Isaac and Ishmael buried him in the cave of Machpelah beside Sarah. Such was Abraham, not sinless. He lied, doubted, tried to help God in his own way, but believing, faithful, listening to the voice of God and following him wherever he led. God called him friend, not servant, not slave, though he was both, but friend. Scripture says, Abraham believed God, and it was credited to him as righteousness, and he was called God's friend. Friendship with God, not religiosity, not rituals, not works, though all these were there, but a living relationship, conversation, trust, obedience from love, not from fear. Through his seed, all nations were blessed. Through his descendant, Jesus Christ, salvation came into the world. Abraham did not see the fulfillment of all the promises, but he believed. All these people were still living by faith when they died. They did not receive the things promised. They only saw them and welcomed them from a distance, admitting that they were foreigners and strangers on earth. They were longing for a better country, a heavenly one. Abraham walked the earth as a stranger, but his heart was at home, with God. And through the millennia, his voice still sounds, calling us, believe God, follow him, listen to his voice, and you too can become a friend of God.